Baby Bear's Adoption by Jennifer Keats Curtis, illustrated by Veronica V. Jones. One chilly February morning, my sister Finley and I were in the yard putting the head onto our monster snowman. My dad came out holding two big netted paddles underneath his arms. "Time for an adventure, Braden and Finn," he shouted. The paddles turned out to be snowshoes. Dad helped us fasten the shoes and then handed us ski poles. Finley grabbed my pole and used it to push me over. I rolled my eyes. Finley is always doing stuff like that. Once I was on my feet, Dad showed us how to use the snowshoes to walk on top of the snow. We quickly figured out that it's easiest to let Dad go first and walk in his footprints. Finley tried to kick snow at me, but she fell down. I rolled my eyes. I told you, Finley is always doing stuff like that. Then, right in front of us was a big hole surrounded by old, dead limbs and some skinny twigs. "That, children, is a bear den," said Dad, "and I have a surprise for you." My dad is a scientist, a wildlife biologist actually, and part of his job is to work with other biologists to help orphaned black bears. A mother bear, so, takes care of the babies. The dad, boar, doesn't help. It's sad, but sometimes a mother bear dies. If a cub is young, he won't survive without a mom. If that happens, my dad and his team can help find a sow with cubs to adopt him. In the winter, adult bears hibernate. They are asleep, but they can wake up quickly when bothered. Cubs are usually born in January. Their mom moves them so that they can snuggle up to her to stay warm and drink milk. That's called nursing. If Dad finds a den with a sow and babies, he and his team put a bright orange collar on her. This collar has a signal that the scientists can use to track her. If they need the mom, they know exactly where to find her. With his team nearby, Dad used his flashlight to look into the den. Finley and I could see the bear's eyes flash. Dad used a dart gun with medicine to knock her out. We waited until Dad and the other biologists were sure the bear wasn't going to wake up, and then he carefully climbed into the den. We couldn't really see what was going on until Dad crawled out again. He smiled at us and held out his hands. There were two squirming black balls of fuzz. If you guessed that they were cubs, you were right. He quickly handed the babies to us and told us to keep them as warm as their mom did. I put my cub inside my fleecy coat. Finley wrapped her bear in her scarf. Using ropes, Dad and his team pulled the mom bear out of the den so that they could put on the collar and make sure she was healthy. They checked for mange, a disease that can make her fur fall out. They weighed her and even took out a little tooth. Inside her tooth are rings that tell her age. They will send the tooth to a lab so that another scientist can find out how old she is. That whole time we did our jobs, keeping those babies nestled close and cozy. When the team was done, they put the black bear back exactly where they found her. Dad then took the cubs from us and placed them against their mom's tummy. He waited until he heard them nursing. Then the three of us snowshoed all the way home. Finley and I thought about those bears a lot. We drew pictures of them and wondered if the mom would get to help an orphaned baby that summer. Then, in June, my dad got a call. A cub was sitting in a tree crying for his mom. He was making a distress call, which sounds like a little kid shrieking. Since the cub had been by himself overnight, Dad knew the bear's mom wasn't coming back. This little guy needed help. Dad called a tree expert and they used a bucket truck to get the bear down. They put the baby into a box and took him to a safe place. Then they fed him special milk from a baby bottle. To track the mother bear that we helped collar that winter, Dad and his team's pilot hopped into an airplane. They flew around until they picked up the signal from her collar. Once they were back on the ground, Dad and his team gathered some equipment and the baby bear. When Dad saw the sow and her cubs, he ran at her, waving his arms over his head and hollering. He wanted to scare her so she would tree the babies, tell them to run up a tree. Once the mom knew the cubs were safe, she would run away. With the two cubs up a tree and the mom gone, they put sticky jelly all around the bottom of the tree where the cubs were. They took the baby they had rescued and covered him with that same smelly jelly. They placed him on the same tree where the other two babies were already sitting up high and watched him quickly climb to join his new brother and sister. Dad and the other scientists backed away and hid behind a huge boulder. Then they waited. After a while, the big sow came back calling for her babies. The two cubs heard her and slid down the tree right through the goo. The rescued baby followed. When all three cubs were standing in front of her, the sow sniffed each of them. They all smelled the same. The rescued baby cooed right at her. The mom bear grunted. She turned and started walking back into the woods. The whole family, her two cubs and the adopted baby, followed. "Bears can't count?" asked Finley. "I guess not," said Dad with a smile. "I didn't even roll my eyes."